Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Tanks Blitz. I will be here doing a garage review of this thing, the Doom Turtle, the Tier 9 Super Heavy Tank Destroyer. Because now that I have fully upgraded it, I decided to skip the final 30,000 XP to get the 155 on this thing. And so I've now finally got the 155, I've tested it out. It is better with the 155, but not by much. And yeah, we'll just be going through the stats of it. So overall, 1,600 hit points. Not that great. Quite honestly, it's one of the it's in the low end of HP. Tortoise has got 1,800. Yarg Tiger, 1,800. Let's have a look through the tech tree. The Waffle has got 1,600, so it's got the same as the thinly armoured Waffle. Fantastic. The Object, 1,500, so it's got 100 more than the Object. Same as the SU. The Conway, if we have a look, 1,600. This thing, 1,500. The Chinese WZ, 1,500. And, oh, we've got the Foch. The Foch has got 1,500. So, it's still in the low end, it's in the medium end. I mean, looking at it, we've got either 1,500, 1,600 or 1,800, so it's sort of bang in the mid. But it's still not particularly that much HP. If we just have a look at the T95A, that's got 1,749, but then that's including this thing. If we were to take off this, gives it 99. Strange. Yeah, strange. Don't know why it has that. If we take that off, and we have a look, that's got 1,650. So it's, yeah, medium tanks overtake it in terms of HP. So it's not got a lot of HP. It's got a decent enough in comparison, but it's still fairly low in terms of HP. 3 good shots from high damage guns, like it has, will wipe this thing off, quite honestly. As for the armour, however, statistically, it's got good armour. That's the wrong button I pressed. It's statistically got good armour. 305mm at the front, 133 at the side, and 51 at the rear. And that 305 at the front is all over the front, quite honestly. The entirety of the front of this thing is just red when you're looking at it in sniper mode. It is a very, very heavily armoured because that's what it was designed for. It was designed to be a breakthrough heavy tank, or just assault gun, to break through the things like, you know, the Siegfried and Hindenburg line, when the Germans retreated back to those specific lines of defence. But of course the war moved on before this thing was able to get into production, so they stopped it because there was no need for it. But that's why it has got so much frontal armour, and it's got one of the most heavy armour in the game, even more so than the mouse. Because if we have a look at the front of the mouse, it's got 240 at the front of the turret and 200 at the front of the hull. So yeah, it's got very, very strong frontal hull armour. The only problem is these two things, which I rant about a lot, which is that these two cupolas are very thinly armoured, and they are fairly large targets. You cannot really miss them on top of the Doom Turtle, and of course it's where everyone goes to shoot. Whenever anyone is facing against the Doom Turtle frontally, they will go for those Commander's cupolas. Because who wouldn't? The only other way of damaging this thing from the front, otherwise, is splashing HE against the frontal armour, which is very ineffective to say the least. But good news for people shooting at you, these two things are very thinly armoured and they are rather big targets, and also you have to expose them to get a shot on someone. You have to expose at least one in order to get a shot on an enemy tank, which gives them ample of opportunity to put the shot right into the top of your cupola, which makes your whole 305mm frontal armour pretty redundant. You can get some success, however, from waggling the tank left to right, which you know, is a pretty common technique for most people, especially in people in heavy tanks, where you can get through the frontal armour or through the cupola, so people waggle the turret or the hull. If there's a big old weak spot on the hull, they will waggle the hull and the tank as well to increase the chance of getting a bounce or throwing off the enemy's aim. So you can do that with the Doom Turtle, but you're a very big, very slow tank destroyer, so good luck with that. Side armour, 133, not that much. However, it is sloped at a fairly decent angle, which means you can easily get some bounces if you're angling at sort of this angle, at the very edge of your gun arc. So, you know, you can get some gun arcs about here. So you can get some pretty decent bounces off of the side. Even at the side as well, if someone hits it at a bad angle, it will just bounce straight off. So side armour is pretty decent. And of course the front armour is where it's all at. But even so, 273 view range, that's pretty good. Concealment, yeah, blah blah blah. Maneuverability, however, abysmal. Absolutely terrible. In comparison to the Tortoise trumps it every which way. And you think I'm joking, but I'm not. Over 30 degrees of hull traverse for this thing, which is pretty good without consumables, don't forget. 31.5 degrees per second. 10.8, something like that, power to weight ratio. 20 kilometers per hour top speed. Same as its average speed as well. Average speed is its top speed of 20 kilometers per hour. It outpaces the Doom Turtle every which way. Doom Turtle has got 16 average speed kilometers per hour, 10 speed in reverse. Average speed is of course that top 16 kilometers per hour. Power to weight is 8.9. It is terrible, and that is including when you've got equipment on there as well, and also these two things, standard and improved fuel. Otherwise, it's got a 695 horsepower engine, which gives it a power to weight of something like 7.6 or 7.9 power to weight. It is slow. It is very slow. It weighs nearly 88 tons with a 695 horsepower engine. This is of course souped up with the provisions and all that, but even so, it is terrible. The terrain crossing capabilities is ever so slightly better than the Tortoise, but only just. Hull traverse speed, yeah, 28.67, still fairly slow. Take away the provisions, you're looking at about 25 degrees per second. Honestly, it is pretty terrible. Even in comparison to something like the Mouse, and the Mouse is an incredibly heavy armoured and slow heavy tank. But even so, 9.3 power to weight, better top speed, worse hull traverse, I'll give it that, and a terrible turret traverse, but then the Doom Turtle doesn't have a turret. But even so, Mouse, it's got a better power to weight, and it's faster than the Doom Turtle, and it has a turret, and it's a heavy tank at tier 10, and it's a Mouse. The Doom Turtle is a tier 9 supposed tank destroyer, and it moves slower than a Mouse. A Mouse would make a more effective tank destroyer in comparison to this, if you're looking at those stats alone. It is fairly low to the ground, however. I will give it that. Concealment 42 while stationary, which in comparison to the Jagd Tiger has got 29. In comparison to the Testudo, the Tortoise, which has got 25. So it is rather ever so slightly better in terms of how it's camouflaged, but even so, it's a massive target. So that's something to take into consideration. But now we come to the gun. The gun is decent. It's the only decent part of this tank, and it's the 15580 gun T7. And it's got a 3.9 second aim time, which is pretty fast. It has got a 0.349 dispersion, which is including a crate of cola. If I show you without crate of cola, boop, get rid of that, because to give it a fair comparison. Dispersion otherwise is 0.36. which is, it's not that great. Honestly, it's not that great. 0.36 dispersion is fairly average, but it's still not that great. DPM as well, 2800. That's not that great DPM. 13.33 second reload time, fairly slow. Decent average pen, 276. That's the same as the Yarg Tiger. If we have a look at the 128, 276, and the 155 has got better average pen, but it loses out in every other regard except for aim time. The Yarg Tiger is laser-like, quite honestly. If we were to add on an enhanced gun aim drive, it gets down to 0.43, so that's a bit of a problem. Otherwise, very good average damage and average pen, 276, 320 with APCR and 90 with HG, 640 with AP, 545 with APCR and 960 with HG. Gun depression is only 5 degrees, not that great. 20 degrees of gun elevation, however, pretty good. It's not the most average penetration at this tier. That honour goes to the Russians and the Chinese tank destroyers. But otherwise, it's rather serviceable in terms of its stats. It's fairly average in terms of accuracy. Like I said, you will, if you let it aim in, it will fairly reliably hit where you're aiming, but otherwise it will careen off target ever so slightly and probably bounce off of the stronger point of the armour. But otherwise, it's got a very good alpha damage, very punchy. You can reliably get through a lot of things at this tier with that penetration, and also some of the higher tier vehicles at tier 10. And it's got fairly decent aim time. But that is the only positives I can really say about the Doom Turtle. I'm sorry, people who like the Doom Turtle. I want to say I like the Doom Turtle. I don't. It's pretty terrible, I do have to admit. With the 155, it is better, but honestly, my view has been tainted of it. I just do not think it is a particularly good tank. I'm sorry. It's got that fear factor. Everyone looks at it and goes, "Oh no, a Doom Turtle," and then they just shoot the cupolas anyway. But yeah, that's all of the stats I can give on it. You know, summary so far: good gun, bad everything else. Let's move on then. Consumables, you've got your standard repair, first aid, fire. Yeah, you got engine power boost, 20% to engine power for 15 seconds, and adrenaline, 20% to load speed, and 10% chance of damaging enemy vehicle modules, and your multi-purpose. That's all fairly standard, no new consumables there. As for provisions, you've of course got standard and improved fuel, which I highly recommend. I highly recommend having these things on. You will never turn a profit in this tank, I do want to point that out, because in order to make it get to the front line before the battle's over, you do need these things, and if you ever want to have a chance of doing anything, you want those things on as well. So just accept that you're not making a profit, and just hope that you have another tank which can make that profit back. Because, yeah, this thing's not, when you need provisions as standard. Of course you can run it without provisions, you'll just want to kill yourself afterwards, because it's just honestly so slow and unmanoeuvrable. Honestly, the tortoise seems like a leopard in comparison to the T95. But yeah, I would say definitely your standard and improved fuel for the 3 and 10% respectively to engine power and well, turret traverse, but honestly that's really just for the engine power, because you don't have a turret. And then you've got your can of cola and crate of cola for 3 and 10% respectively to crew mastery. Might as well go ahead and bung that on. Increases your hull traverse slightly more, and also gets your train crossing capabilities up, as well as your aim time and reload time and your DPM and all that. So honestly, not too bad of an idea on the Doom Turtle. You might as well, if you're already spending another like 5,700 credits per battle having these two things on, you might as well up that by another 7,000. And then you've got your protective kit, which is all those things. All really fairly standard stuff. Now we come to the equipment. Gonna want a gun rammer. Again, get that DPM up, because honestly the DPM is absolutely terrible. If you didn't have gun rammer, you didn't have the case of cola, if you didn't have those things on, the DPM would plummet, quite honestly, as would the reload time. Reload time would probably go up to about 14 seconds, maybe, if you didn't have gun rammer and the other thing on. So a fairly slow reload for this big old gun. Improved modules definitely for the extra track durability, because if your tracks get blown off and you can't repair it, anything, and I mean anything, will dance around your tank. Because, oh boy, if you get your tracks blown off and you can't repair them, oh boy, that's a bit of a problem. Yeah, you're just gonna want to have it for the extra track durability. Honestly, no one's ever gonna ram you, so you don't have to worry about that. And this might be nice for the extra, engine durability. Honestly, forget all that. Just go straight for the tracks. Straight for track durability, because they are big, they are exposed. It's what you're gonna want. Also, because you're an assault tank, technically you're a breakthrough tank, you're meant to be at the front line, and the fact that you are incredibly slow, by the time you get to a sniping position, most of the time the battle will be over. So camo net, I would say no. I would say instead go for coated optics for the extra view range, because if you get spotted and you're in a bush with your camo net up and you get spotted, they're going to shoot for your weak spots and they're going to penetrate through your weak spots, and then you'll have to back it up, all of which doesn't help if you have a camo net. So you might as well go with coated optics to increase your view range. Enhanced gun aim drive, get that aim time down to sub 4 seconds. Not too bad of an idea. Enhanced armor for the extra, armor for those cupolas, makes it ever so slightly more difficult to pen. Otherwise, you could go improved assembly, but honestly, I think enhanced armor is probably a better choice on the Doom Turtle, just because of how thick that that frontal armor is, and the very good sloping on that side armor. This thing will help out on that as well. So, I would say enhanced armor. Engine accelerator is a must for the power to weight. This thing is a nice idea, gets you up to almost 30 degrees per second, but not quite. So I would say this thing for the extra engine power, and it also takes up your hold reverse anyway. So this thing is the better choice in my opinion. And then I would say the refined gun, get that accuracy down. Put to 0.31, that makes it actually fairly good. Refined gun, not too bad of an idea. You don't need vert stabs, you don't have a turret to turn anywhere. And with only 10 degrees of 10 degrees gun arc either side, you're not exactly having to turn the gun massively in order to get onto target. So, refined gun for the extra accuracy. Enhanced tracks, definitely. So that when your tracks get blown off and you don't have the repair kit, once they're fully repaired, they'll be fully repaired up to full. Just fairly useful. And then your choice of what the hell those two things are. So, last point, now that I've mentioned gun arc, 10 either side. It doesn't say it on here, but if we take that off and we go down here, 10 and 11 degrees gun arc, which means that you will have to expose one of these things either side. So, that's why I said if you need to get a shot onto someone, they can get a shot onto you. Because your gun arc, you just don't have enough turning of the gun away from the tank that you can hide reliably these two things. It's just not possible. You can do it in the Tortoise, because the Tortoise has got 20 degrees either side of the gun. It's a very good cone of fire, which means you can come around the corner like that, hide this thing, blast away with impunity. This thing, you come around the corner, they shoot that, you roll around the side, you shoot at them, they shoot at you again, you pull back, they shoot at you a third time. It's just the circle of life for the Doom Turtle. But yeah, that's the final point I want to say. So overall, Doom Turtle, do I like it? Nah, not really. Maybe my opinion will change when I play some more games with the 155. But honestly, it's just a poor man's Tortoise. It's a brutal opinion, and I hate having to say that about the Doom Turtle, one of the tanks that everyone talks about in World of Tanks. But honestly, there's nothing it can do that the Tortoise can't do better. Quite honestly, the Tortoise is faster, more manoeuvrable, arguably better armour, less of an obvious, well, I say less of an obvious, a more easily hidden weak spot, an arguably better gun. It's just an all-round better tank, technically. More HP. In comparison to the Doom Turtle's got two things going for it: better armour, apart from the cupolas, and better alpha damage and better penetration. Those are the only things the Doom Turtle has got going for it in comparison to the Tortoise. Otherwise, the Tortoise trumps it every which way. And that's just my honest opinion on it. Should you get it? No, honestly. Now I have it. It's kind of a bit of a letdown. It's just not as good as I thought it would be. The Arctiger I thought would be really good. And it is. It lived up to my expectations. The Tortoise I thought was going to be really good. And it was. Lived up to my expectations. Doom Turtle I thought was going to be a blast to play. Bouncing shots here, there and everywhere. It was not like that. I was killed very easily by same or higher tier tanks because of these two obvious weak spots and the fact that it's really slow and doesn't really have anything going for it. And I don't make a profit, which makes me even more sad with it. But yes, that's enough ranting and being mean about the Doom Turtle. That is the review of the Doom Turtle. That is my opinion on the Doom Turtle. That's all of the effective stats that I can give you, alongside my combat history of the Doom Turtle, my service history, I should say, rather, with the Doom Turtle. But yeah, that is the Doom Turtle. I'll thank you all for watching, and goodbye.